Hello and welcome to the match report, hosted, of course, by Freeman Phil Cahill. Kojo joins us. How you doing, sir?
I don't know how to feel right now, man. I just don't know how to feel. Yeah, that's the most honest answer I can give you right now.
Got hit for top four dreams being shattered. It might be a long one still. It might be a long one still.
It's a sticky one, bro. It's a sticky one, man. It should have been a nice day, you know. Went to the Robbie. You know, should have seen my team win. I've been there twice now, and I've seen a draw. And one slapping.
The draw was nice though. It was Atletico Madrid. That was a good draw.
It was a good draw, but I want to see a win. You know, just one.
You weren't gonna get it versus City, but we'll get into that later. Of course, Steve joins us again. Always nice to have you, Steve.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure. I always look forward to Monday nights with you chaps. So, let's do it.
Let's get into it. We shall start with a big one. Arsenal, no, I'm joking, not Arsenal. Well, we'll save it. We'll save that moment for Arsenal. Top four, of course. But no, Burnley 0, Chelsea 4. They got absolutely spanked. 4 goals for Chelsea. Reece James, Kai Havertz scored twice, and Christian Pulisic made it 4 for Chelsea. Kojo, a walk in the park for this Chelsea side.
Yeah, light work. The first half, Burnley were a bit competitive. They tried to create some chances. Their downfall was their lack of decisiveness, in particular from Dwight McNeil. That might be a shortness of confidence or something, but he just didn't look like he knew what to do when he got to that final third. But as soon as the second half came in and Chelsea got their goal, it was a walk in the park from there. Reece James' goal was easy. I say easy because the defender didn't really make any attempt to stop him. And then once they got that goal, Burnley's heads dropped, and it's weird because the aura usually with a Burnley, yes, they're not going to win every game, but you kind of see them as a side that will no problem at some point just get through these situations and just you know, and if they lose to a big team, it is what it is. But the way their heads dropped after the first goal was, if I'm a Burnley fan, which I'm not by any means, but if I was a Burnley fan, I'd be extremely concerned. Because I don't think that's been seen before in their Premier League era under Sean Dyche. So, yeah, but walking the park for Chelsea, easy 3 points. They stroll on.
I mean, see, let's continue the conversation about Chelsea. I mean, a few weeks ago, we was talking about how Chelsea are struggling to score goals, but then here we come. Go to Burnley, which is a tough game, and they smack 4 past them. And no surprising that we're mentioning this guy, Reece James, back in the squad, and it seems like the goals are getting back up again.
Yeah, with the back three, Reece James has quite a lot of freedom to do the things that they would want him to do. And you can't deny the boy's got ability because he has. Burnley's a strange one. You kind of, the resilient Sean Dyche thing doesn't look like it's there this season. They're not the side that sort of, against the bigger teams, dug in. We beat them. You know, Chelsea have hammered them. Don't read too much into the result because next week for Chelsea, it's a different story altogether. Where, like Kojo says, and there's a few sides doing it at the moment. Leeds is one and Norwich is another. When they concede a goal, they all go around shouldered and start looking at the floor. There's an old adage that winning is a habit in football. Well, so's losing, and Burnley have got that habit for this season. On a personal level, I don't have a lot of time for Burnley, to be honest with you. If they were to disappear down the trapdoor back into the Championship, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. I think we've seen enough of that brand of football now, and they needed to evolve. And because they're not evolving, there's not a lot of difference in the bottom half of the Premier League, to be fair, in terms of the quality. I think this season's a strange season in terms of results and quality. We'll get onto that when we talk about the top 4 race, but Burnley shouldn't be too worried because Everton are in free fall, and if Spurs turn Everton over tonight, that really will be interesting. So, not looking great for Burnley, but there's 3 or 4 or 5 sides down there that could quite easily get sucked in or put 2 wins together and suddenly find themselves almost safe. So it'll be an interesting watch, but they're not great. They're a poor side, and that resilience has left them a little bit, and they got what they deserved. And Chelsea don't, just because Chelsea didn't win the Carabao Cup and have dropped out of the top 2 title race, it doesn't make them a bad side. They are a good side. We know this.
When it's talk about, it's rare that we get the opportunity to talk about Burnley, and I often try to avoid it as much as I possibly can. But
Wise
we're
move.
here. It is a wise move because they're very, very boring. But we're here. If they do go down, Kojo, what do you see for Sean Dyche? Because I mean, the first time they went down, I think a few years ago now, he stayed there, he brought them back up, he sustained them as a Premier League side, and now he's back in that dogfight. Do you see him staying, or do you see him leaving? Because I feel like that push for a bigger job, like I would say in Everton, but that the Everton are struggling as well right now. But the job offer was there for Everton, and he didn't take. He decided to stick with Burnley. So where do you see Sean Dyche going from here if they do go down?
Well, it's a weird one for me because I think, firstly, if they are to get relegated, or even if they stay up, I think after the season, it's in his best interest to cut ties with them. I don't know how much. Well, not even. I don't know how much. I don't think he can take them any further anymore. I think that's done. They had one great season where they got into a European position at the end of the season, but that ended very, very quickly, and they've sort of gone back into that place of we're happy to be a Premier League side and that. And I don't know what Burnley's ambitions are for the long term, but if he is a manager who, despite my reservations about his football and his management style and all that, I feel like he is someone that wants a bit more than what he's getting right now. I think it's his best interest to leave. Now, it can go one of two ways. Could be a Captain Obvious moment here, but Chris Wilder obviously left Sheffield United after he thought he couldn't take him any further anymore. It was done, but then his next job was in the Championship, so he's on the same level as them. But of course, he went to cut ties. I can't do much more of this club anymore, of the squad. I love the fans, I love the club, but it is what it is. With him, when it comes to Premier League clubs, I genuinely don't know who would take him on right now, just because, for example, if I use Crystal Palace as an example, last season I was questioning their ambitions because under Roy Hodgson and on previous managers, we didn't see a change of style of play. We didn't see an ambitious move from the club in terms of maybe one signing that changes the game a little bit. They were happy to be maybe in that 10th to 15th spot and be content with that. But they got Vieira in. They changed the style of football. They released a lot of the older players, bringing a sort of fresh quote into the team, young talent. And I think if Burnley are to stay out, they need to look along that path. Crystal Palace would have been fine for him if it was after Roy Hodgson and they were looking to do the same thing. But that's not the same Crystal Palace anymore. And I feel like a lot of teams try and do the same thing. Stoke fell under that trap as well. Stoke changed their football eventually, brought Bruyne, brought Ibrahim Afellay, and tried to bring a different style of football as well. So I don't know which Premier League club will take him. That's the honest answer. And even if it's a promoted side, we don't know who's going to be promoted yet. So I don't want to call that out. But I also don't know who would take him on that basis unless next season one of those clubs go into like a relegation battle and they look at him as one of the men to do it. But is he going to be his own sort of Sean Dyche, or is he going to be like a new Sam Allardyce? I don't know. I don't know who takes him. I genuinely don't know. He could be another Chris Wilder situation.
Same question to you, Steve. Where do you see him going if he does leave?
Well, I hope for his sake he doesn't pick up the second Sam Allardyce, because that will involve sitting in a hotel somewhere threatening to take money off somebody, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? Losing the job. Kojo's right. Where does he go? Where does he go? Who wants him? If you're let's say you're Leicester City and the vultures are circling around Leicester City at the moment because things are not going well for Rodgers, and you decide Rodgers isn't your man, you're not looking at Sean Dyche. If you're Watford and you go down, you might look at Sean Dyche, but you look at Watford's playing staff. They're not dogs of war, are they? There's a few lads in there who can play. They just need a bit of tactical awareness about them and a plan. Has football evolved to a point where Sean Dyche becomes A, unfashionable, and B, unable to compete? Even the sides at the bottom end of the table are trying the three up top scenario without a number 9, if you like. That's the way football. In 18 months, 2 years' time, your traditional number 9s will be a thing of the past. Football will evolve and it will go on and upwards and whatever from that point going onwards. If I'm a chairman of a Premier League side and I need a manager, I'm not going to look at Sean Dyche, because money's hard to come by these days for the fans. You don't ask fans to pay £30, £40 to go and watch that. So he's got to rethink his style. He's got to evolve because he hasn't evolved. It's the same sort of mantra that it's been forever with Sean Dyche. He's so predictable, but successful in that. But football's moved on. Football's a different thing these days. It's not done with massive big blokes anymore. It's done with diminutive, light guys who are quick on the turn, low centre of gravity, move the ball very quickly. That's the way it's become. And you look at Arsenal, your team, Smith Rowe and Saka are not big guys, but they're talented footballers, and that's the way football's going. And you see evolution of football, whereas in the 80s, you had the likes of Mick Harford, big bruising centre half who'd kill you trying to get to the ball. Those days are gone, and I wonder whether Sean Dyche has got it in him to evolve. Or is he the guy that sort of bounces around the top end of the Championship? A long time at Burnley, and would he have had the same amount of time anywhere else? And Kojo's right. He should be challenging Burnley's aspirations. But Burnley's business model is to make money every year to pay the shareholder, to have decent footballers, to stay in the Premier League. The kudos of being in the top flight in the best league in the world is massive for a side like Burnley. But at some point, someone's got to say, is this it? Are we going to be in transient forever, or are we going to take a leap of faith and have a go? And it might cost us a bit, but we need to change what we do. So, and I don't see Sean Dyche being involved in those conversations. He's been good at what he's done, but things have changed, and I don't know whether that suits him.
Should we talk about the whole Roman Abramovich situation, Kojo? It's a bit of a sticky one. Obviously the war going on and him having to sell in order to keep Chelsea out of the firing line, I imagine, but also keep him out of the firing line as well. But
you could talk about what's next for Chelsea when he says.
That's what I'm thinking. I the thing about I just don't want to skid over what's happening right now. So there's a whole this is completely mixed up in the war in the Ukraine, and that feels a bit disrespectful to talk about. Oh, what's this Abramovich thing? How is this going to affect Abramovich? I don't know about that one. But let's talk about Chelsea. What let's go to you, Steve, first. What do you think is next for them? Because for years Abramovich has been a staple at Chelsea, and we know his style of if you don't succeed, then you're gone. But now it's a new dawn is coming for Chelsea, and we don't know what that's going to mean. What do you think it will mean?
Okay, the one confrontational thing I will say, and it's a bit near the knuckle, is who in their right mind in today's world is going to be seen to be giving money to an oligarch? Who's going to take that decision to do that? If it's a consortium, you can hide behind the name of it and get away with it to some degree. With regards to Chelsea, they owe him 1.5 billion in loans for players and for operating costs. That probably doesn't happen again with another owner, because it's been something he's invested himself in. I wonder what happens with Chelsea going forward, because it was a new business model when it came out with the buying up of everybody that everybody else wanted. Liverpool sniffed around Mo Salah, Chelsea bought him, kept him on the bench, then got rid of him. Very much a case of buying players to stop other people having them. Sean Wright-Phillips. You could go on. There's other Steve Sidwell. There's other names of players who ended up there, never really accomplished much. It is a change in the business model, and it's difficult, because if you look at the logistical side of the infrastructure of Chelsea, Stamford Bridge is not a great stadium. They get less than 40,000 in there every week because it doesn't have the capacity. And the interesting thing is they don't own the pitch. That's owned by Chelsea Pitches. So if he wants to sell the club, whoever's buying the club's got to have a negotiation with Chelsea Pitches in terms of buying that part of it. I read about that the other day. It's an interesting scenario. It's a difficult one. They might have to reinvent themselves and sort of slide away a little bit and then come again, because it would be all change, wouldn't it? It'd be massive, massive change for them. And that's where we'll talk about Man United, I'm sure, when we do. That's where club infrastructure is key. And right now, Chelsea's infrastructure is built around one man and his willingness to subsidise and keep the club going. You look at Manchester City, they've got Soriano and Tixi Bergerstein from the Barcelona days. And Liverpool have got, they've had two CEOs and they've got two directors of football who are very astute, and our transfer dealings are very good, and the club's in a great position from a financial perspective. I think our losses were we're 4 million on our latest accounts, which is incredible for a COVID-driven environment for a football club like that. So it's very prudent. Prudence isn't something that Chelsea have ever really gone for. So I do wonder. I think there will be a period where they'll not drop off. They will to some degree, but they'll still be there and thereabouts. They're unsettled at the moment. They're definitely unsettled at the moment. When all's said and done, they could be 10 points adrift to second place, whoever that is, within a matter of the next couple of weeks. They are the third best team in the country, and then there's a big gulf to where you put the 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. But it'd be interesting to see, and you know, these things don't last forever. There would be a time when Roman Abramovich wasn't with us anymore, and Chelsea would change hands anyway. It's just going to happen sooner rather than later. And it'd be interesting to see who buys it. It's a consortium. You get the Arsenal model where shareholders want their dividends and they're not really asked about the football club. That's dangerous. That if you're a Chelsea fan, that's dangerous. What they've got at the moment is a one-man band that was hell-bent on putting them at the top of European football, and they've had quite a lot of success, as we know. So I'll be an interesting spectator. I think it more than lends itself to the top two in the Premier League being the top two for some time. They were probably the people who are going to emerge from the pack, if you like, and challenge. I'm not sure that's the case anymore.
Gojo, anything to add?
Yeah, it's just an interesting scenario for Chelsea. I think, obviously, the reason why maybe they've had his way of running the club has been that way because when he took over Chelsea, that was sort of the first of its kind in English football. It was humongous. So he had a system that he wanted to run. Under Ranieri, almost worked in that one season together, and then he brought Mourinho, and it was instant success. So from there, he just sort of found the formula. He had a couple of signings that didn't work out that he brought in himself, like Shevchenko, for example, quality footballer, but it just didn't work out at Chelsea. And then, you know, he's obviously had a lot more success, as Steve has obviously said. Pretty much, I think in his tenure here, I think only 4 seasons where they haven't won a thing, which is incredible considering he came in 2003, 2004 season. You know, having just 4 years where you've not collected at least one trophy is an incredible run. It's an incredible feat. So where Chelsea go from here? I mean, Steve obviously was nodding towards the infrastructure side. I think when you're talking about what not just City and Liverpool, maybe just many clubs in general now, the changing of how the boardroom is built, your director of football and everyone else around that. Whether Chelsea are going to do that, whether they're going to bring in an owner and, you know, go back to the old school thing of letting the manager run it, you know, give them the money, everyone to work, or if whoever comes in and says, I'm going to run the ship, sort of run it like a Madrid model back in the days where the people upstairs would decide which players join the club and you as the manager just uses them. It's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. I'm not going to predict anything for Chelsea just yet, but it's an interesting scenario because they've been taken over and they've had wonderful success. If they're taken over again, which is obviously going to happen, will it be the same? Or are they behind 2 clubs that look like they're ready to now move on to the next stage of their development? So, yeah, who knows?
I mean, one of those clubs you talk about next stage development is, of course, Liverpool, and they beat West Ham 1-0. Thank you, Steve, for doing Arsenal a service there. I appreciate that very much. Sadio Mane with the only goal, a wonderful assist from Trent Alexander-Arnold. But even though you did get the win, it was not an easy day at the Park. West Ham had a few chances there, Steve, where they should have capitalized and they should have beat you. Yeah,
I agree. They should have done. They did have chances, and we went brilliant. But you know, we spoke before we came on air. You're going to win the title. You have to come through games where your form's a bit indifferent and you're not really at the races and get the win. And win ugly is the phrase, isn't it? We're doing that, and it's a tough game, and we knew it would be a tough game. West Ham are a good side. They're well organised. In Antonio, they have pace and power up front, and he's not intimidated by so-called dominant centre halves who don't seem to bother him. He's not particularly. You can see he's not scared of Van Dijk, and all power to him. It's kind of nice to see that he was prepared to roll his sleeves up and have a go. They're a good side, and we were fortunate to come away with a 1-0 win. the way we have to look at it is right now, the points is the thing that is most important, not necessarily the performance. You know, you take a 9-8 right now if it means you stay on the coattails of Manchester City, because 3 weeks out of 5 we are top draw, and 3 weeks out of 5 we give teams, you know, a good hiding. But West Ham are a physical side. They compensate for a lack of quality in some areas with physicality. We had chances to take it beyond 1-0. We were a bit profligate in front of goal, to be fair. So I think we got away with one there. Nice to see that David Moyes, given his previous allegiances, remains winless at Anfield. Only ever won, I think it's 4 times against Liverpool in his entire management career, and he's been around a long time. West Ham are in the mix with you guys. I think for the in the box seat for 4th place, and I think they played that way and they performed that way. They were missing Declan Rice, obviously, which is a big blow to them, but I don't think it makes a lot of difference in that game, because the way that both teams played, they tended to bypass the midfield to some degree anyway, and play quicker, longer balls into the right areas for the forwards, which is fine. It's what both teams did. I'm very pleased with the results. Obviously, keeps us there and thereabouts. We were 13 points behind City 4 or 5, 6 weeks ago. To get it to where we've got it to is really, really cool, really impressive. And these two sides are miles in front of everybody else. Miles, not even close. And it's a hair's breadth between the two. It'll come down to a bad day at the office. I said to you both before we came online, if results go away, it would have been nice to go to City level, so you don't have to play for the win. But let's be honest, both these sides go out every week to win. So when we play them at the Etihad, it'll be no different. And that could well be go a long way to deciding the title. But not a great day. We've had better days. We might play better and lose at some point in the future. That's how hit and miss it was. But we'll take the 3 points, keeps us in the mix, and you know, West Ham are right up there in the battle for the top 4 for me.
I mean, let's talk about it, Kojo. West Ham being in the battle for the top 4. Steve doesn't think they missed Declan Rice that much, and I tend to agree. I think I agree with every one of his points about both teams bypassing midfield, going just long balls over the top, trying to get onto their strikers, and it worked a lot for West Ham. I mean, Antonio had a good chance. I think it was Fornals who missed a sitter of a golden opportunity.
Lanzini.
Was it Lanzini? I think it was Fornals that missed one.
Lanzini smashed one over the bar from about 6 yards.
Yeah, he did. And Fornals, I can't remember how we missed it, but I remember seeing hands on head.
Was it the Trent Alexander-Arnold off the line when he tried to chip the keeper?
That's right. Yeah, he tried that.
It's a good save because he stands up really big. And then Trent does what everybody says he can't do, which is defend.
Yeah, okay. I'll give him this one.
Give him that one. That's surprising. Well, okay, we'll take it. But no, what? It's just one of those things with Fornals, man. I don't understand why he was super. It seemed arrogant there. See, to me, that looked like, if you remember, was it Adamola? Was it Lookman?
No,
did Panenka?
Yeah,
Panenka penalty. It's like you're not gonna get that many opportunities in this one, big man. Just take what you get and smash it. Just absolutely make sure that ball is going to the back of the net there.
Well, that's what I think you used the correct word, arrogance. I don't want to accuse him of being an arrogant footballer, but it seemed very arrogant to go 1-on-1 in a situation like that where, again, look, if he pulls it off, it's a lovely goal, but at the end of the day, you didn't. And the fact is, because you didn't, we have to scrutinize that. The truth is, you had time to bring that ball down. I'm looking for an accomplished finish. I want you to side it, place into the back of the net. I don't know, blast it past the keeper, give him no chance. Just something a lot more convincing than that, because the effort gave me 2 things. Number one, even if Alisson gets a hand on it or whatever, the fact that it's gone past him anyway means that you have to put enough on it to get over the line. Trent still had a lot of running to do to get to that ball, and it wasn't even directly off the line. It hadn't reached the line before he kicked it off. So that for me shows that it wasn't a convincing finish whatsoever. I don't know if he hesitated. I don't know if he thought because it's bouncing and he's taken like this. But I think he's got more. He's got more than the ability to bring that ball down in that situation, no pressure, and just go 1-on-1 with Alisson and either force him to do some level of top goalkeeping where he presses you and makes his body big, or you finish past him and you make it. I think it was 1-0 in that scenario, so make it 1-1. Now the second one, I just couldn't understand how he missed that, because great control when the ball got crossed in, Lanzini, great control, and then Trent desperately tries to get in his way with a flying tackle. He gets another touch, dummies him as well. So I'm thinking, I don't know. He tried to place it, which I was thinking place it, but the application of power just baffled me as well. These misses happen in football, but when you're in a situation where you are right now, where West Ham last season were close to the top four and then fell off towards the end of the season, and you're in a situation where yes, Man United are still complacent, Spurs are still complacent, but now Arsenal are starting to play one. Arsenal starting to get points, and yes, they have 3 tricky games in hand, but they're still there, and that's the main point. The gap between you and Arsenal is starting to actually open. It's not getting close. It's not getting close right now. You have to take these chances, and they're gonna regret them. As for the Antonio chance, there's something about Antonio going on 1-on-1 that is so unconvincing. You just look at him and you're just like, he took a touch. The touch was beautiful, but there was nothing in me that thought he's going to take this chance. Robertson did very well to put a tackle on him, got his foot on the ball, so that sold him a little bit, and obviously Navigator did the rest. But yeah, I mean, it speaks volumes for West Ham just because I think their fans, we obviously know Dan from West Ham Fan TV in particular, they've been screaming for another striker, another man up front, just to take not only the pressure off Antonio, but for another option as well. It doesn't have to be a different type of striker, but someone maybe with the same speed, someone that's a bit more accomplished as a finisher. And they haven't given that option to Moyes in the transfer window. So, yeah, if they have more games like this, the top 4 race is not going to be a top 4 race anymore because they can't afford to drop points. So they're going to regret that. But regardless, I thought it's a hard place to go to. And the fact they played well, they deserve some props for that.
If they'd bought a centre forward and another player for another position they're struggling, they would have walked 4th place. Because
I agree.
They've gone out and bought a pretty prolific centre forward from somewhere. They tried it with Sebastian Haller a few years ago and it didn't work, and he's pulling up trees in Dutch football, but it's not Premier League, is it? But they missed a trick there. And they might at the end of the season, they might at the end of the season look at it and think, if only. And that's not what you want to do when you're looking at top. Because for West Ham, they can afford to finish 5th or 6th. It's not a bad season, and they'll go away and think, yeah, that was cool. Same as last year. We're now consolidating our place in the higher echelons of the Premier League. If they go and get 4th, their project changes exponentially overnight because suddenly they've got all this Champions League money. Suddenly they've got a much bigger project in their hands because they've got to go and compete in the Champions League. They've got profit coming from TV money. They've got group. You get about £20 million if you get through the group stages in the Premier League. It's £2.5 million a game if you win it in the Champions League. So then an opportunity to balance the books and really give them an opportunity to take a step in the right direction. One they may not have expected at the start of the season, so they were in a win-win situation, and they should have speculated to accumulate, and I think they might regret that.
Yeah. Might regret that. Arsenal could have also speculated to accumulate, but we didn't over the January window. But it doesn't seem like it matters as we picked up the victory against Watford, 3-2 in the end. Goals from Martin Odegaard, Cucho Hernandez, Bukayo Saka, Martinelli, and Musa Sissoko. Now, I'm going to start this off by saying, what a bunch of 3 goals from Arsenal, Kojo.
Yeah, I can't.
Pure class. That was Wenger ball at its finest.
No, I can't disagree. The football was lovely from Arsenal. I think if I have to have a pick of the 3 from the Arsenal goals, it was the 3rd one. I'll say that because as good as the other 2 were, when teams usually get a throw, they usually just sort of you jog to the ball and then look for options. Arteta picked up the ball. There you go. Quick one. Get on your feet again. Let's keep moving. Eventually found Martinelli near enough the edge of the box, and the finish was so good. was so good. Honestly, Arsenal's performance was very, very good. Obviously, they had a shaky start at the beginning, conceded in the 18 seconds, but offside, fine. They conceded an overhead kick, very good goal. Those ones are not ones you can really criticize. Yes, could defend be better, absolutely, but that's not something you expected from Cucho Hernandez.
Right?
Of all people. And then Donya, I guess the only it's a small negative, but it's only because it's funny. Musa Sissoko scored, and he don't score goals. So that's the only thing I can just be like, of all people, like, because we were watching it and I heard someone go, "Wait, Sissoko?" I was like, "Huh?" I didn't even think I was watching it. I didn't even think it was Musa Sissoko. That's how confusing it was for me to see him actually, place it nicely like that. But no, look, Arsenal's performance was brilliant from literally the 19th second up to that goal, and that's about it. And they deserve the win, deserve the 3 points. Saka is enjoying his football. Pepe is getting more minutes, but he's looking like a new man. He's looking like he's enjoying himself again as well. I know you're not a Lacazette fan, never am I, to be completely honest, but he's also doing a bit of the link-up play in that front three. He's playing
showing a certain Liverpool number 9 how it's done, right?
I'm not involved in these games.
the injured one, yeah.
So no, look, good win for Arsenal. Your form is very, very good, and you're looking like the favourites for the top 4 right now. So yeah, very much deserved victory, man. Honestly,
I mean, let's go off that, Steve. Favourites for the top 4. They've got 3 games in hand. Even if they lose them, they're going to be above West Ham. They're going to be above United, and potentially they could be above Spurs. So are Arsenal the favourites for this top 4?
I put them on slightly favourites over West Ham for me. Just think Manchester United have got too many indifferent performances in them. You could quite conceivably win the games in hand, and then it's a whole different ball game altogether. I think what's happening at the moment with Arsenal is they've run into form at the right time, because this has been a top 4 race that nobody's really wanted to get a stranglehold of. Nobody's really said it's going to be us. We're going to roll up our sleeves and make sure. It's kind of been passed around, and it's like a hot potato. Nobody really wants it. Play nice football, and it's been nice to see. It's refreshing that a club has taken its time with the manager, understood, I won't say the process because that would be really cheesy, but understands what he's trying to achieve and given him the time to do it, allowed him to deal with the problem players in the football club. The Guendouzi's of this world, by all accounts, was an absolute nightmare. Obviously, the Aubameyang situation might have cost the club money to do it, because he wouldn't have left for nothing. They'd had to pay him to go away, type of thing. But it's working out quite well, and you don't need number 9s anymore when you've got players like you guys have got. And I know Lacazette is doing a little bit of link-up play. This Lacazette's very different from the one that was at Lyon before you signed him. Very different dynamic altogether, and he's older now and not as quick and as lively as he was. But you've got ball players around him, and after the semi-final against Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp said as he was leaving the press conference, Martinelli, what a player, by the way. So he recognised the guy's ability, and he has got it. Interesting times. You've got the keeper. You've got a couple of decent centre backs. You need Thomas Partey to come to the party, forgive the pun, and really show what he did at Madrid, Atletico Madrid, that is. And then you've got ability in abundance in the final third with Smith Rowe, Martinelli, and Saka. That's a really mouth-watering combination, those 3, with many years of football in front of them. If you don't get top 4, I fear you might lose one of those, because I know Jurgen Klopp's a Saka fan, and it wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility to look at that. Yeah. But I think you'll get it. I do think you'll get it. I think Arsenal will be in the Champions League next year, and then comes a whole different type of problems for Mikel Arteta in managing all of the extra games and managing the squad through Europe. It'd be interesting to see how he does, because he's clearly a student of the game, and he's learned from a very good coach in Pep Guardiola. But as I said at the start of the piece, it's really good to see they gave him time, and he's had 2.5 years now as the manager, and there have been calls for him to leave, calls for him to be sacked. You might have done it, mate, but we've all been there.
Yeah.
Rodgers, Hodgson. God knows how Roy Hodgson ever got a job as Liverpool manager, but that's how
that was a dark day at your club.
When your manager stands up at Liverpool Football Club and says we're not too big for a relegation battle, it's like, what did he just say? What did you just say? Get out! Get out! Don't ever come back again. But Arsenal playing a nice brand of football, and we've got you in a few weeks. And to be honest with you, the form you're in at the moment, I'm not as confident as I should be about that game, and that says a lot about Arsenal's progression. You ask questions. There's a massive psychological hump with Arsenal and Liverpool, though, in that it's been a, dare I say it, we've been a bit of a whipping boy scenario for us. We've given you a few really good hidings, and we know that, and you know that, but that won't be the game that decides whether you get in the top four. I think between now and the end of the season, you've run into form at the right time. It's about keeping that momentum now. And if you can keep that momentum and you can win those games in hand, Spurs are not going to feature in the top four race. They're really not. Manchester United, we saw Manchester United at the weekend. They've got some difficult games coming up. I just think they're in the box seat. And I think, as I said before, West Ham not spending money, they may come to regret that, because I think you'll finish above them too.
Here's a podcast idea, because what Steve just brought up about what Hodgson said about you're not too big for relegation. That should be a thing one day. What criminal things managers have said about your club, and we get fans of different clubs to come and say things. So like when Moyes got beaten 3-0 by Man City. Bear in mind, he's now manager of the champions of England, and he goes and says, we aspire to be like City. I almost threw my shoe at my TV. Almost. And I say almost because I missed it, hit the wall. So, yeah, we should do that, man. That'll be a fun concept.
That'll be jokes.
I think Mourinho celebrating second place should be right up there as well, mate.
Can't lie to you, I agreed with it. Because he told the truth. That team sucked. It was David De Gea and friends that year. And
it really was. It actually really was.
Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, who remembers second place? Nobody.
Nobody does. But it's one of his greatest achievements, because that team was terrible.
Yeah, so was the league that year, to be fair. The league was
How many points did he get that season as well? He got quite a few points, right?
81 points. We finished behind the Centurions that year,
Yeah. No, man. I agree with Mourinho. But no, I mean, Arsenal, if I'll have my say, I mean, it's a weird one for me. It's like the two players that are letting us down are our midfielders, and we desperately need our midfielders to step up. Granit Xhaka had a few misplaced passes in that game. One almost led to, I think actually did lead to their first chance and their first goal. Tommy, you mentioned Thomas Partey, Steve. I absolutely agree, man. He needs to show up, because I think he was very sloppy. I think every time he goes to shoot in training, somebody should just slap him, so he knows that when he's in a game, he just shouldn't shoot from long distance, because it's never hitting the target. It's always one of those shots. It's like it's got so much power but no direction. So if it hits, if by miracle, by chance, by luck, whatever you want to believe, it goes to the top bins, there would be a whole bunch of people saying, "I told you could shoot from distance," and I'm like, "Nope, can't do it."
He's a modern era John Jensen, isn't he, mate?
I have no idea who John Jensen is.
I know who that is. Flipping
He's a guy, a Danish guy that they actually made T-shirts on the Arsenal. For Arsenal, I've seen John Jensen score.
Oh wow! Oh, there you go. Then
he scored one goal for Arsenal, mate, and it was a John honorary top bins arena special, mate. And he couldn't hit a cow's ass with a banjo normally, mate. So you know it was one of those.
Well, there you go, man. You're like, man, that he needs to stop shooting. Honestly, stop shooting. But no, man. I mean, going forward, it is a strike. Is certainly becoming a striker of this league, and Lacazette is doing bits right now. I think 7 assists in his last 9 Premier League games. Not bad at all. Not a bad return. But then again, he's a striker. He's a number 9, so you want him to chip in with goals. Saka's been brilliant. Odegaard's been brilliant. Martinelli, he's been a bit shaky, but he's always electric. And that goal on the weekend was just sublime, man. You can't put any words about it. Just top bins. I've been playing nice football, and I can't complain. And I've been complaining a lot about it, Arsenal this season, but we can't complain right now. So I believe we're in the driver's seat. I believe that the only team that stands a chance in getting above us is Manchester United, because of course they have so much quality. They've got so much quality. Stop shaking your head, big man. You're player. You have a team that should have been challenging for the title this season, and you ended up.
I'm not disagreeing, but I've got a lot of players there that just suck. By the way, yeah,
I understand, and we'll get into that right about now. We'll talk about that game 4-1 Manchester City. Now you were on the stream with Don Rob on Don Robbie's channel, which I watched and I enjoyed very much because now the group group WhatsApp picture has now changed from I don't know what it was before, but now it's your face, head and hands, absolutely shocked, mortified, and it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. Goals from Kevin De Bruyne, Jadon Sancho, Riyad Mahrez twice. We'll talk about Riyad Mahrez in a moment as well, but we'll talk about the game, of course. Now, going into that second half, I don't imagine you would have believed it would have ended up like that because there was a point in that game where Manchester City had 90% possession, and that is insane for a Manchester derby.
So, what you said about the second half? So in the first half, obviously they're 2-1 up, going into half time, but it was a weird United performance. I didn't understand what was going on. It looked like Pogba and Bruno were the front two. Elanga was out wide. The setup didn't make sense, but for some reason, we're pressing higher, we're creating some level of chances, getting it behind here and there, finding gaps in the defense. Obviously, Jadon Sancho's goal epitomized that, the way we just sort of counter-attacked very quickly and easily, actually, I would say. So I was thinking, if they can apply the same sort of pressure, the same sort of application to their game, then maybe we can come away with something. I wasn't going to call United win at halftime, but I was thinking, I've known United to always do this, and I think because it was a derby, I was hoping that it would be a one-off where they don't switch off after the break and go back into their shells and just perform pathetically. But that second half was a horror show, man. That was a horror show. So firstly, I want to give credit to City because City, in the first half again, they were a bit complacent with their passing. They scored two decent goals because the second goal was more like a FIFA goal. Ball was just spinning everywhere, deflections. Then it just fell to De Bruyne's feet. So he thought, I'm just going to hit this ball because why not? I've been questioning the defense ever since day one. So I mean, quite frankly, I've got nothing more to add apart from how
we'll talk about a certain number 5 in a moment as well.
Oh, it's not even just him. Oh yeah, it's not even just him. It's not even just him as well. But we'll get into him in particular, of course. But when you go in at 2-1, the game's not over. Sancho scored a lovely goal. So just try and apply some effort and get into that second half. But man, it was terrible. City started playing the ball around, and you could just see where the game was going. You just thought to yourself, yeah, this is going to become really problematic for Man United. And Robbie actually said, if City get this third goal now, you're done. And I said, yeah, because I know from experience in this kind of game, especially against City, against Liverpool in the past and in this season, against many other teams, when Man United concede the third one and they go 2 goals down in terms of the gap of the scoreline, they're out of the game. It's done. There is no comeback. And it was epitomized by the fact that Cancelo didn't need to, but started to try and score Pele kicks from crosses. They scored a training ground exercise goal where De Bruyne finds Mahrez on the edge of the box, and he hit it well. It took a deflection of Maguire, so maybe it would have been saved by De Gea, but that doesn't matter. Regardless, it hits the back of the net, and they deserve their win. Man United are just, they'll ask questions about Ranić and this guy and the other guys. I've said this for a long time. The changes that I need at United they're huge, man. I've been on streams and I've told people I need 13 new players, and they're like, what do you mean you need 13 new players? I'm like, we need 13 new players because arguably you can argue that every player, every position in the starting 11, Man United's strongest 11, every player can have their position questioned. So if you're linked with someone, is Bruno immovable? Not really, because despite his fantastic, goal contribution, assist contribution, because his performances are not overall convincing, people are saying he might not be the guy. Pogba, whole United experience has been a 6 out of 10 at most. The defense, all of them can be deemed replaceable. David De Gea has been great for United, but he had a shocking couple of years. He's been good this year, but again, a new goalkeeper will be needed. Ronaldo and Cavani are very old. Martial is in Spain. He's injured again. Rashford is not performing. Ilanga's the only bright light. Sancho's now starting to get into his groove. So really, Sancho's really the only one that has a certified spot where people say, I've got a time for him. And Varane, when he's fit. Unfortunately, he had COVID, so he couldn't play. So that game just epitomized what Man United are all about, and epitomized what City are about. And the first game, they would beat us 2-0 at Old Trafford. That was a training game for them. They didn't want to kill Man United. This game, they were at home. They got the further goal and they started enjoying themselves a lot more. And instead of making their training exercise, they looked to, yes, have fun with it, but they were looking to kill us. And they got that fourth goal and then they just shot because they didn't need to do anything else. And if there's anything that makes or shows the difference between the two sides, at 3-1, I believe, we had some sort of mini breakaway with Sancho on the left side, and he's dribbling, trying to look for somebody to support him. And all you can see around him are City bodies. And that tells you everything you need to know. Despite them being so easily in front, they put every effort to make sure that you do not get in their goal, they'll get towards their goal again. And that epitomizes the difference between the two.
I mean, it's very reserved, that Kojo's take on that game. I want to get him mad. So I want you to absolutely hammer Manchester United for me, because they were absolutely pathetic. I think that was probably one of the worst displays of the season. Obviously, going into the games of Manchester Derby, and you expect somebody to be up for the game. It seemed like, the only person that was kind of up for it was Jadon Sancho.
I think they've got massive problems right throughout the club, from the top right through to the fan base, and the ex-pros coming out and saying their piece isn't really helping. I mean, before I talk about the game, let's just look at Roy Keane's comments. Roy Keane speaks after the game like he had an expectation that Manchester United could compete with Manchester City. Come on, stop it, right? Nobody who watches football went into that game thinking United were good enough to try to compete with City. They're not. They're not good enough to compete with City. The first half was competitive. After getting the goal back and being 1-1, sacrilege to concede again, quite quickly. We go in at half time, and all Guardiola says to Manchester City is just be patient, because these have got mistakes in them. Just keep the ball, keep working it, keep recycling it, keep putting the cutbacks, keep creating the angles. That's all he does, is just create angles, and it's like death by 1,000 cuts, isn't it, playing Manchester City? And what he basically did was just keep asking questions, and we do have to talk about Maguire. Why the God you dummy the ball in the 6-yard box is up there with some of the best things he's ever done, including tackling and fouling his own centre backs while they score goals. I swear you, right, if I went down the road now and took over the Dog and Duck Sunday League side and Harry Maguire turned up, I wouldn't play him. I cannot understand how that guy is even a footballer. What he's good at is when the ball comes out of the sky with snow on it, because he's a big unit, he'll win more than his fair share of headers. Everything else that football teams do, and I spoke before about lively, quick, diminutive centre forwards and attacking midfielders buzzing around you, they just tie that guy up in knots. He's 80-odd million quid's worth of a captain of Manchester United Football Club. People like Brian Robson, Steve Bruce, Roy Keane must be looking at him thinking, wow, what the bloody hell is that as a captain? And yes, United have had a great record against City, and I was talking to Usman about it, that they need to play Rashford out wide and be brave. Be brave by taking a leaf out of Chelsea's book, leaving the wide men high and wide all game. But they've got no game plan. They've got a manager that doesn't understand the game plan. They've got a roster of players that don't believe in the manager, because in their mind, in the summer, he's moving on and somebody else will come in. So why do they have to listen to him? There's stories that Ronaldo decided he didn't want to be part of the matchday squad. How true that is, only he and the manager know. I'm not really going to get drawn on that. But Kojo's right. If you sit and look at what Manchester United need to do, it's going to take three summer transfer windows to make those changes, because you're not going to sell 13 players from a side that has the performances that Manchester United have had in one summer, because the rest of world football looks on them and goes, Well, they were crap at United. What do I want them for?
Mm.
So the situation there is that it's 3 or 4 each transfer window. So I think Ronaldo walks in the summer and goes and plays in America or somewhere like that as a swan song, because he's not the player he was. His 36-year-old body isn't what he thinks it is, and he struggles at times. Cavani will leave on a free because he wants to go and play somewhere else.
Well, he was at the golf, wasn't he?
Say again?
Where was Cavani? Just at the golf game or something like that. That's what I read somewhere.
Well, he's been injured, hasn't he? So, but you look at the midfield, with the exception, all of the midfield needs looking at. All of it. And as good as Rafael Varane is, he's had his injury problems this season. You've not been able to rely on him as a club. So, wow, there's a statement, eh? It's going to take three years at least for Manchester United to sort this out. And in that 3 years, Arsenal will develop. Chelsea will find their feet after the change of ownership. Liverpool will develop because they're signing 25-year-old players like Jota and Diaz, and they've got Trent and Konate and people like that. And they're all young and they're only going to get better. And Manchester City's Manchester City, they will develop. My worry, it's not a worry, but my concern if I was Kojo would be in that 3 years of finding what works for Manchester United, just how far will our rivals disappear over the hill? I've been there as a Liverpool fan, mid to late 90s, early noughties. Oh, we'll be all right this year because we've got this player and we've got that player, but we had no identity. We'd forgotten what it was like to win. And I've said this before, and it sounds like I'm beating Kojo with this stick, but I'm not. The "we are Manchester United" notion is wearing thin, it's fading. Okay, so if Manchester United don't get Champions League football, the project's not great. The project just got a bit worse from two perspectives: A, the manager, and B, the players that they might want to sign. So they're in it's the biggest job in world football right now to put Manchester United back on the map. It is undoubtedly a harder job than when Ferguson took over Manchester United to restore their glories, because football has changed so much and there's so much to do. And this is why I think Jurgen Klopp winning the league with Liverpool was a Liverpool manager's greatest ever achievement. Because when we used to do it for fun in the 80s, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about wages. It wasn't about living in London. And it wasn't about agents. It was about playing for Liverpool because they had the prestige and the football heritage, as it were. Manchester United is a ridiculously big job. And there are only 2 or 3 managers out there that are capable of turning that round. 2 of them are employed by Manchester United's biggest rivals. Even Ten Hag, who everybody wants, is a risk for Manchester United because of the infrastructure, because of the owners, because of the way the football clubs run. Don't get me wrong, as a Liverpool fan, with all the abuse I took from Manchester United fans over the year, it's kind of nice that the boot's on the other foot. but it's tough. And there is the underlying question is, will in our lifetimes, will we see Manchester United ever get back to where they were before, such as the gulf between them and the people they're chasing?
So when it comes to the gap between the clubs, I mean, already the gap is really huge as it is. I think the gap between Man City and Man United now in the league alone this season is now 22 points. So that tells you everything you need to know in that regard. I think, sorry, a big one for the comment. When it comes to now the 3 years, I've always said that. I've said that to Cahill, I've said that to many other people about the 3-year plan. When you're a manager that comes to I see a team that's challenging for Europe / looking for a title, that kind of area of maybe top 7 club, if you would. I give you 3 years to build your own squad and then try and reach the ambitions of your club. Now, I don't know. Again, I don't know what the ambitions of Man United are right now because it's all over the place. It probably is top 4, but that's probably from the board side. Whereas from the fans just want the title every time. They want to keep competing. And I'm just like, well, the team is not good enough to do so. And the reason I say that, because despite the fact that we signed Sancho, Varane, Ronaldo, those 3 signings alone, on top of having your Pogba, Bruno Fernandes, what he was doing before, obviously he went back into his shell. Luke Shaw's playing very well. Rashford, just half a broken body, but was still scoring many goals. You have the talent there, but there's certain elements in the team that make sure that United struggle and continue to struggle. And that's the one doubt I had. That's why I shouted Chelsea. to go for the title, not Man United, because I just didn't have that extra belief in Man United to go further. Now, when it comes to closing the gap, you mentioned it, Diaz and all these guys coming through. Arsenal, you mentioned it earlier. They got a young front three. Well, a young three of Smith Rowe, Martinelli, and Saka. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, may leave, but regardless, I think the plan for Arteta, apart from maybe 2 or 3 guys, has actually bought well in the market, and he's probably looking for another striker to complement those 3. Man United's job is huge because when I say 13 players, as just like an example, 13 players is a lot of players. Like, that's a lot of players. Now, Liverpool changed their squad huge. You go back to when Klopp came in, Skirtle was there. You know the names I'm talking about. These are the guys who were in your club, and the kind of players that you brought in and made a difference within the space of, I'll say, actually no, 3 years. 3-4 years, the squad changed big, but you had people like Firmino that was still in the squad anyway. So you had like someone that you could use, someone that was very useful, someone that had quality and you believed in. With Man United, the players that have quality, Rashford contract runs out next summer, Pogba this summer, and the other players you just don't know whether they're coming or going. Ronaldo, you mentioned it. Ronaldo's still a wonderful man in terms of football player. You know, he's had a wonderful career. He still knows where the back of the goal is. But even right now, they're struggling to find him. And that's a problem in itself also. So the gap being closed, right now, I don't even have that discussion anymore because the job for Man United is big. And if I'm being honest, as much as I say 3 years, if Liverpool and Man City do improve even more and keep steamrolling through teams and beating the teams around them, it's going to be a 5-year job because their ultimate ambition is to challenge for the title again. And if you're going to challenge, you need to be as good as the other 2, which means you buy as smart as Liverpool. And if you're spending the money that Man City spend, make sure not all of them are duds. Because what you've done is, since Alex Ferguson's come in, you've brought in 4 or 5 different managers, different styles, different philosophies, and you've bought a whole bag of players. And they've not worked, and you have to ship them off and bring in a new set, and then ship them off and bring in a new set with a couple stays. And those guys that have stayed probably shouldn't have stayed in the first place. So the job is big, man. The job is big, and that stinker of a performance just topped it up. Now, sorry, before I shut up, Big Ron saying McTominay's post-match analysis was spot on. It's a shame we can't apply that on the pitch. Now, my issue with these guys and making statements, McTominay might be in particular as well. They make these statements every time they have stinkers. McTominay probably admittedly would admit himself was shocking in the Manchester derby. He was terrible. But he makes these comments every single time Man United lose. Now, I'm not saying you have to win to be tactically brilliant, but if you're winning, talk about how good you were and why you won the game in a tactical aspect in that scenario. But you can't do that because you, Fred, Bruno, Ronaldo, Pogba, the list goes on and on and on, Maguire, you're all dropping 2 out of 10 games. That's the truth. Sancho's the only one who can come out of his head high because he scored a goal. David De Gea could do nothing about the goals. It's not his fault. And Elanga didn't play well, but Elanga didn't play bad. He's a young player who at least had the confidence to just go out there and at least try and take on players and use his speed a little bit and try and get in behind and do something. But then he was also shipped out wide as well, and he had to do that because he wasn't going to get the ball up top. So honestly, McTominay and all these guys, they can all talk, but they until they give me good, consistent performances, when the game finishes, stay in the dressing room, let the manager talk and go home.
So it's a question for both of you. So look at Diaz, who signed for Liverpool. The moment you see him play for Porto, you think that's a Jurgen Klopp player because of the way he presses, the way he closes down, his industry and his willingness to win the ball back. You look at what Arsenal are doing now, and Arteta's building a certain style of football at Arsenal, and again, allowed the time to do that. You look at Manchester City, we know what is a Manchester City type player. We knew Jack Grealish was a Manchester City type player. There are people saying he's 100 million or whatever it was. He hasn't performed. He has. He's just a smaller cog in a bigger machine than he ever was at Aston Villa, and that gets overlooked. You got to get to a point with Manchester United, like Klopp did with Liverpool, where you identify what you want to do and how you want to do it. And then you can start player profiling. At the moment, I could look across world football and I can't give you a player. And this hasn't been the case for 20 years. I can't look at any player and say that's a Manchester United player. Because I don't know what a Manchester United player is anymore.
That's down to the club's identity, though. And that's,
of course it is.
And then that's where I feel Rangnick comes in. That's why he's bought in this one. I think the 6 months, it could go either way. If they get top 4, it's a massive success because they were completely out of it under Solskjaer. If they don't, then he goes upstairs anyway, and then that's where the work gets kicked in because he needs to change that whole style around. He needs to change that whole attitude at Manchester United because they do feel like they're still a big club. They're not a big club anymore. They're down in the dirt. They might be huge in terms of name and in terms of stature, but Fergie, the last time they won the Premier League was what, 2012?
2013. Yeah.
2013. That's almost 10 years away.
Yes, no, they're approaching
so
it.
Like their stature's going to dwindle. It's not going to be as promising. They're going to have a few rough years, but if they stick it out with Rangnick, which I believe they will, because I mean, what else are they going to do at this point now? They might have a footballing identity again, but I don't know. I'll leave that the final point to Koja.
I've never believed in a type of player for a club. I think every manager knows their philosophy and knows their style. So I think why you can identify Luis Diaz, who, by the way, I was fuming when you signed him. Absolutely fuming. I was fuming that Tottenham even looked at him before Man United because I am a fan of Portuguese football. So I loved Ruben Diaz before. KO also loved Ruben Diaz as well before he joined City. I was a fan of Bruno Fernandes, Pedro Goncalves. So
most of Wolves players essentially.
Oh yeah, exactly. Most Wolves players. There you go. So when you started coming in for Diaz, I was fuming because he fits Klopp's style of football perfectly. He will press. He is energetic, and on top of the basically what I'm saying is effort and work rate, he's got quality. And that's what you guys signed. You signed quality on top of work rate. Now, Kale made the point of Rangnick, and that's his job. Now, Rangnick has to identify a manager who, if Rangnick is the guy and Rangnick wants Man United to adapt to his philosophy, then he has to bring in someone that fits that philosophy. And I don't know whether he feels Ten Hag or Poch fits that more, or it could be someone else. I really don't know. All I'm asking for is the club to have basically what you gave Arsenal credit for earlier with Arteta. If you're going to bring someone in, you have to have the patience for the manager to try and build something. And if after the 3 years they've been there, you're not satisfied with what they've done, you've given them the time and you let them go. I think that's a fair compromise. I think that's very easy to, not easy, but it's fair to do. If they're underachieving in the first or second year, then yeah, by all means, let them go. But I think 3 years is enough time for a steady progress type of thing, because that's why I came back to the players earlier. I'll go back to that number, 13. There's a lot of players that just won't make the cut here anymore. Dean Henderson won't make the cut. De Gea has had a great career at Man United, but he's not here forever, and you have to start looking to replace him at this point. Shaw, Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Bailly, Jones. That's literally pretty much the whole defense. And I'm a Lindelof fan, but I know he's not a title winning defender. McTominay, Fred, Pogba's going, so let him go. Bruno's a big maybe because his output is fantastic, but his performances are shaky. Ronaldo's 37. Rashford hasn't performed this season whatsoever. Martial didn't perform for 12 months, went to Spain, scored a goal and got injured again, so he's unavailable. Let him go as well. Cavani, definitely leaving. How many players have I just listed off? You know what I'm saying?
At least 10. Then you're going to add Nemanja Matic, Juan Mata to that list as well, can't you? You shouldn't be there.
Yeah, exactly. This is the whole point. Lingard was ready. Lingard was out of the door, and you forcefully dragged him back in. You tried to pull a foolish deal where a guy with 6 months left on his contract goes off on loan to Newcastle, and if they stay up, you pay them £16 million. Like this is all idiocy. It's all idiocy. So that's what I'm talking about. I've named so many players, and arguably a lot of United fans will come in me and say, yeah, this guy should go, this guy should go, this guy should go. I don't want Pogba to go, but I know he's going to go. And quite frankly, after what Anelka said about how he struggled with the criticism, not just football, he understands football criticism, but about him on a personal level, that's why he's not happy more than anything. he's going to go as well. And he'll go somewhere else and enjoy his football and probably win accolades over there, and that's fine. But that's a lot of players I've mentioned. And that's our 2 goalkeepers, literally the whole defense, bar Dallo, who's another one can even go, if I'm being honest. He's not the one for the long term like that. And Varane. Varane's the only one that can stay. Oh, sorry, Telles. Telles can go too, because after that defensive performance, I've given up on that guy as well. So, how much change do we need? That's 90% of the squad. Sancho, Ilanga, Varane stay. Everyone else is hit or miss. If you go, you go in it. Rashford don't even get that whole he's from Manchester.
No, even when we were crap, and there was years when we were crap, I couldn't sit there and tell you we needed to get rid of 90% of our squad. And I think that's quite telling. I really do.
There you go. People might think I'm being harsh or overdoing it, but for me, I'm a big Rashford fan, but I've always said it. For any player, if it looks like you are not happy in your environment anymore, you're not going to flourish there anymore, it might be in your best interest to leave. I'm not going to be angry about it. I will still respect you. I'll still have much love for you. But if you're not happy anymore, the rumors coming out today, he's not happy, he's not getting game time. If that's going to be the scenario in the future, the guy's not going to stay. And he's got a year and a half left on his contract. So that even tells you itself that that whole situation is in trouble. Wow. So until I see massive changes, 90% of the squad can dip. And whoever the manager comes in, let them buy their players so we can see their style. Then we can say that's a Man United player because the football that Man United are playing.
There you have it. Thank you, guys.
You know what? Respect here for that. That's a very honest appraisal from a massive Man United fan. It must be awful where you are right now, mate. But no, you speak a lot of sense, mate. So respect for that.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Appreciate
that. 90% of the team needs to bounce, according to Kojo. But that's where we'll end that with the podcast. There. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for joining us, especially you, Steve. But we'll come to you first. Where can they find you, sir?
Get me at Steve Plunk. And if you're a Liverpool fan, probably just for Liverpool fans at the moment, I'm still on Redmen TV once a week at the minute, mate, which is cool. But open to collabs, just DM me. You guys message me and I come on here. It's always enjoyable. And if you haven't given these guys a follow, then what are you doing? Because you really should. Because this is a great channel. And get it done because they're 2 top lads and I enjoy coming on. So thanks again for having me.
Thanks you.
And Kojo, where can they find us?
So you can find us here on YouTube, Free Midfield Podcast, on all your audios. That's your Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Free Midfield, number 3 Midfield, and also for social media as well. The same thing: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch. Free in Midfield.
This has been another episode of the Match Report. Good night.